Hello, this is David Sloan Wilson for This View of Life, and I'm delighted to be talking with Zach Weinersmith, famed creator of SMBC and more recently BAHFest, which is what we're here mostly to talk about. Welcome, Zach.
Thanks for having me.
And so tell us about BAHFest.
BAHFest is the Festival of Bad Ad Hoc Hypotheses. It's based on a comic I did, but we actually hold this event. We're actually holding two in 2014, and the idea is you come up with really bad but really well articulated theories of evolution, and then you present them before an audience and judges, and you are judged. And the winner gets a little bust of Darwin looking unimpressed.
Right, and this started with a cartoon that you wrote now a couple of years ago. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I did a joke about a similar idea that was the Festival of Bad Adaptation Hypothesis, I think, but and I posted it and there was just a really overwhelming response, so we kind of stumbled into making it a thing.
Right, and so we'll post the cartoon along with this interview. But as I recall, it was a hypothesis that babies are shaped like footballs so that you can punt them from village to village,
Yes.
and to avoid inbreeding, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I gave that lecture at the first event, but I modified it from drop kicking to catapulting just for the sensitivity of the viewing audience. But which was tough because it lost me. One of the points in the drop kicking was that when you kick the baby, you see how it's not good for a normal audience. When you kick the baby, it should sort of emit a puff of air, which should propel it a little. But I decided, I don't know, maybe we wanted this to be an event that you could take your kids to. So I thought maybe baby drop kicking was a bit much. Not that baby catapulting is pleasant, but maybe a little nicer.
Well, the winner of the first BAHFest was also involved babies, and I was proud that it was a group selection hypothesis. It was,
Yeah, he was great. That was Tomer Ullman, who was magic. He was so good. We're telling everyone to just like imitate him this time around. He was amazing.
yeah, so we'll link to that also, of course. And so basically, this was popular, and then you asked around if people would like to come to an event, and you got this, like, you seem to have tapped this deep well of interest, right?
Yeah, my theory, and I couldn't prove it, but I wonder if the class of giant nerds is kind of underserved. I was talking to Kishore Hari, who runs a Bay Area Science Festival, about this. How and I'm not speaking for him, but a lot of the science entertainment out there is either aimed at kids or aimed at education, and not just sort of entertaining for nerds.
Right.
And so BAHFest is kind of explicitly not trying to do any of those noble things, and just trying to put together entertainment for those people.
Right, and so the first event was scheduled on the day that the marathon bombing occurred, right? And so
Yeah, that
that
was. Oh, go ahead.
and that had to be postponed then, and it was held last fall. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, it was sort of bizarre. Kelly and I were actually the first show was going to be the first stop on our honeymoon. We were going to spend a few days in Boston and do the show, and then all of a sudden there were these guys running around Boston with pipe bombs, and so we decided, even if it were legal, which I think it might not have been, to hold the event, it was just too dangerous, because I don't know if you remember, but the one fatality actually happened on MIT campus, so we were just like, there's no way, this is not in good taste, and it's not safe. So we had to push it back, but it ended up working out fine. I can't complain because obviously the people who were there at the time had it much worse than I did.
So when the event was held, it was part of a Cambridge Science Festival. Is that right?
Yes, sort of. I mean, the original one, Cambridge Science Festival, the actual festival proper, as I understand it, was going to be I think it was late April, but then there was the whole bombing scare, and so it couldn't. I think they canceled a couple of days out of respect, that sort of thing. And so I think we sort of cross promoted. I don't think we were during the festival proper, but we were sort of part of Cambridge Science Festival in that they do a bunch of events. So that was pretty cool.
And so you filled the auditorium at MIT. Is that right? About how many people were there?
Uh, yeah, I know the building has a capacity of, I think, 1,200 something, and we didn't put 1,200 tickets on sale just because we don't, we're kind of just packing people in, and we didn't have any ushers or anything. But the tickets we put on hand were over 1,000, and we sold all of them. So yeah, it was mind blowing too, and it was on a Sunday, and it was raining, so everything was kind of against us, and and not only was it packed, but that was the most receptive audience I've ever seen. Like they just loved it. So which makes you feel like I was in my own speech. I got away with a lot of like jokes that were just okay because that audience was so good, and I wonder if that indicates how underserved they are.
Yeah, that's right. It's amazing when you see it on the video. It's just like everyone is completely in hilarity mode.
Yeah, it was. I had a couple people say this to me. It was like just the most receptive audience I've ever seen. And I used to work in entertainment, so I was imagining like a stand-up comedy audience, which as a rule is sort of antagonistic.
Yeah, right.
And whereas this, it was just like everyone was there with you. Like we even had twice during the show there was an AV problem with the projector, and everyone just sort of played along. It was really excellent.
So now you're going to do it on the East Coast and the West Coast, and we'll provide the dates and the locations and stuff like that on the website. And so this is a big thing for you. I mean, before we had this interview, you said you kind of see this as a big part of what you do, a little bit comparable to SNBC, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I would like it to get to that point. I mean, we'll have to see, but it was just such an awesome evening, and I feel like the idea has a lot of potential. There's a lot of there's this sort of burgeoning culture of just people interested in science, and I think, as I said, there's a lot of stuff that's trying to educate them, but not a lot of stuff that's just talking to them on their level. I think, and so my thought is, this concept of fake but very logical, very put together seminars probably has a lot of room to grow. So this year we're holding 2 events, and if it goes well, I'd love to expand it to more cities and also more scientific areas beyond biology.
Right. And this is what interests me about this is that, of course, this view of life is dedicated to communicating evolution to a broad audience, and often we're in ivory tower mode, academic mode, and stuff like that, and we know that there's some sense in which we won't succeed until this is communicated in all sorts of different ways, including ways that people don't recognize as education. And
Right.
also, we have kind of stereotypic images of what people know about evolution, and that's being violated by this audience, it seems to me. And how would you characterize this audience that gets such a kick out of BAHFest?
Oh,
I got to do something with my phone. Hold on just a second.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the audience. Yeah, so I mean, I'm just guessing because we certainly didn't conduct any exit surveys or anything. But I know. So Bay Area Science Festival, for example, holds an event called Nerd Night that Kelly and I are participating in, and it's really neat. I don't know if I'm supposed to give this away, but whatever. Kelly, my wife, Kelly, is a parasitologist, and they asked her to come to one of these. It's just a gathering for a couple hundred nerds in a bar in San Francisco or Oakland. Although I think they're all over the world now, but we'll be there. And she's giving a talk on parasitology. And the neat thing is, I don't think she's going to walk it back much from the talk she gives at seminars. Maybe a little, because some of the stuff is it's thick enough that you wonder why it's being brought up, unless you're in the field. But she's not going to walk it back much, which to me is really exciting because I think usually, for example, when you go to a science museum, you don't really get hardcore science. You get stuff that's designed to be neat and quick. And I understand why that's the case, because that's what most people want. Most people don't want to read a textbook while they're at the museum. But I think there are people who do. I'm one of them, so I know there's at least one. And so that's kind of the audience we're trying to serve. To the extent it's outreach, I think that we might actually do a little sort of backhanded outreach in that I hope what people come see the videos and they see just all these people having a really good time,
Right.
and maybe want to do the learning requisite to have that good time. I kind of hope. I have that philosophy about my comic that I don't need everyone to get every joke, but I would like it to just be fun and socially acceptable to really dork out about this stuff.
Yeah, well, just to find it funny, you have to have a certain knowledge level, I think is what you're saying. So don't try to
Exactly.
educate. Just basically, this is a great sign that people are savvy enough about this, so that when you parody it, it becomes funny, and that's the best way it could be.
I think so. I really do. I mean, I have a lot of friends who work in science outreach, and I think there's definitely a place for that sort of active education stuff. But I think there's some value also in saying, by the way, once you know some of this stuff, you can come to our geeky party and have a good time.
Yeah, awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
well, very happy to spread the word, and so thanks so much for this and other things that you do.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
Yeah.